I know. But here we are back with the book of Habakkuk. And you probably don't remember, his name comes from Habak, which means to embrace. And here's a man who embraced God despite the fact that he didn't understand why God wasn't more proactive in judging Israel. And we're looking at the 7th century, just before the first and second dispersions of the northern tribes. And he's just wondering why are you letting things go like this? You just couldn't understand it. And so it's a dialogue with God. Other people are not involved. It's an interesting book, but a very important book in terms of connection, in terms of embracing God and learning to trust his character despite things that we might not understand. I'm not saying that God won't give the explanation for something we don't understand, but not understanding something is not a reason for blaming. Okay? How could God why didn't God, all these kinds of things, so that our experience, I should reintroduce myself. There might be some new people. I'm Rabbi Rosenfarb from Beth Messiah Synagogue in Norfolk, Virginia. And this is our Wednesday night Bible study at 7 o'clock every Wednesday. So we let our experience dictate what we believe instead of God, through his word, through his interpersonal communication with us. This happens all the time. It happens in interpersonal relationships too. We let our experience define what our relationship is going to be with somebody. Over and over and over. And so it causes problems. It causes problems for us to believe, right? I get a flat tire. Well, how could you let this happen? I didn't let it happen. You ran over a nail. That's how the cards fell today, you know?
Why did you put that nail in my way?
Okay. And it causes crises in belief, in believing God, because we're judging him by our experience, as opposed to what he has said and revealed to us. So that's where we are. He's talking about treacherous people. Yeah, he's talking about the Bogadim, and I don't understand why they're tolerated. And then he goes on to talk about the wicked. Here, I'll read it again, verse 13. Chapter 1, verse 13. Your eyes are too pure to look upon evil. You cannot tolerate wrongdoing. Why then do you tolerate truth? Why are you silent while the wicked swallow up those more righteous than themselves? Of course, fallacy here is you cannot tolerate wrongdoing if measured against God's love for all people and the chances that he gives even the wrongdoer to repent, right? Mm-hmm. So that's not taken into consideration here, right? So you can take a look at a lot of the things that are said here and find fallacies in them. So the wicked, different people, think about the wicked in different ways. Later on, we see the wicked ones are the fishermen. And in verse 15 to 17 later on, I'm not going to get into that right now. I do want to mention that this idea of fishers and hunters is often beaten with a big stick from Jeremiah. The Jewish people are supposed to come back to the land. So first he's going to be nice and send the fishers, and then if you don't listen, he's going to send the hunters. Despite the fact that the object of fishermen is to kill the fish and get them eaten. So fishermen and hunters are the same. They're the same. Just means I'll go after you on land and I'll go after you in the water, wherever you are, right? So it's wrong-headed thinking, really, about the way God does things and what he's going to do and what we have to do and so forth and so on. Anyhow, just a little rabbit trail there. So these wicked folks here are motivated by boundless greed. They're gratified by whatever they can get for themselves. in the moment. And here's the point is, if you have absolute authority, why don't you do something? How come you're letting these guys slide?
Mhm.
And I'm grieved because I have righteous indignation, and so did Jonah. I'm not saying Habakkuk was an evil guy. I'm just saying we can have the sword of the Lord and utilize it incorrectly. That sword belongs in His hand, and when we wield it, we slice and dice. We don't really have the experience to do that.
Is he wielding that sword, or is he just questioning?
Yeah, he's questioning, why aren't you wielding the sword?
Mm.
How come you're tolerating the wicked? It's clearly there's great wickedness. You said that we're going to be punished by another nation. You said that we're going into captivity. When's that going to happen? In other words, in a sense, he can't understand why things just simply remain the same. That's really do something. Let something change, right? So that's his travail.
We could put that in the Washington Post today.
Yeah,
Mhm.
sure.
And then he did question it.
Yeah, again,
Great.
God answers this in another part of the Bible. That God, He's not unjust. It's just He's patient. He's giving people a chance, society a chance. Nineveh was given a chance. They took it, and they got 100 years. 100 good years. And of course, then after 100 years, they reverted and they were judged. But, Hezekiah got 15 more years, actually longer, right? And it's not a matter. It's not a matter of who deserves what. It's a matter of where does God see an overall eternal justice? Where does God see the 10 people, the 10 righteous, that Abraham bargained for? We know that God's desires to save. Just take a look at the bargaining of Abraham and God for Sodom and Gomorrah. He's willing to go down. Yeah, I'll spare it. Okay, even for this. And finally 10, Abraham figured if it's Lot and his wife and his children and their spouses, we're going to have 10 easily, but it didn't work out that way.
God needed a minion.
I don't need to tell you who that is. Okay. All right, verse 14. Why have you made men like the fish in the sea, like the sea creatures that have no ruler? So just like in verse 13, there's this presence of calamity and evil in the world. And yet God's supposed to be sovereignly in control of human destiny. Now that happens to be true and false. Inevitably, the plan of God will work out, but God doesn't mandate that He is in control of it. A baby dies, because they have a disease at 1 year old. God didn't do that. He's not in charge of that baby dying. It was either demonic or it was natural causes. There are other things set in motions. Comets come and go. And thankfully that hasn't destroyed the earth, presently. But there's nothing to say that down the road we might sustain a big bunch of damage. When a tsunami comes, it doesn't ask whether believers are there. It just comes. The scripture says the rain falls on the just and the unjust. Good and evil proceed on the human race. And otherwise, we're going to live in a world of robots. Just.
Would you say the sense would be like the world is set up by principles, like God set it in motion by principles,
and He can intervene,
and He can intervene
when He deems it necessary.
Yes.
But if I build a house in Florida and I don't do my due diligence, and I haven't found out that there's a big sinkhole on my property, which apparently is pretty prevalent, and my house sinks, I don't go back to God and say, how come you let this happen?
Mhm.
He might come to me and say, why didn't you ask me about this? Was this a
Really?
good idea? So that's the thing. People are calling me all the time. I don't know. I'm having such a bad day. I ran out of gas. And I said, you ran out of gas?
Why didn't
Where
you
was the
check
needle?
your-
Well, it was
Yeah.
close to empty, but it wasn't right on E. It was
Oh,
close
for
to it.
heaven's sake.
You know.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
there are principles of the tides. Okay,
Mhm.
if my niece, my brother lives by tidal water, and I think my niece went out on a boat, and, and the tide went out,
oh, God.
and there's the boat, and like 2-3 feet of mud. She has to trek all the way back. Well, God's not responsible. Satan's not necessarily
Yeah.
responsible for that.
Yeah.
It's a consequence of what? Of the way things
Not
work.
knowing. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we had a guy, a congregation, many years ago, and he thought he could beat the train.
Oh.
Well, he didn't beat the train. Okay.
He tied it.
He taught,
Oh.
unfortunately, yeah.
Wow.
So these are silly things. People
They
do
do.
silly things.
Yeah.
They get trapped. If you go to New England and I'm at the beach and this is a beautiful beach and the walls of the cliff just go straight up. Well, guess what? In about 3 minutes, you're going to be in 20 feet of water, 30 feet of water when that tide comes in. Okay,
Wow.
Yeah.
because that's what happens up there.
Mm.
If you're not aware of that, you get caught in that. Whose
Mhm.
fault is that? It's
Yeah.
ignorance's fault.
Mhm.
You weren't aware. So he's asking a valid question and an invalid question. Like he can't see the whole picture. So God's going to answer a couple of times these various things. All right. So the fish, there's a condition that is subhuman and vulnerable. They're like fish. They're just running on instinct.
Mhm.
One big fish gobbles up a smaller fish. They don't even think about it,
Mhm.
right? So that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing this subhuman kind of existence. I mean, how can somebody come into your house and rob you for $100 and you catch
Yeah.
them and they shoot you dead?
Yeah.
How can somebody have the
Yeah.
gall?
Oh,
But they do. Okay,
Mhm.
for whatever the reason, they need it for drugs, whatever the reason,
Mm.
they do it, and
Mhm.
that's what he's saying. You've made people like fish, meaning they weren't fish to begin with, but that's how they're acting. Guttural instincts, doing whatever they want to do, and that's why they get caught because they want the
Yeah.
worm, they want the minnow, they want
Mhm.
you use their basic instincts to entrap them,
Yeah.
right? So, all right. The wicked foe pulls all of them up with hooks. He catches them in his net. He gathers them in his dragnet, so he rejoices and he is glad. He recognizes how to grab the people when they are in their instinctive mode. The wicked person takes advantage of that, and
Yours says the wicked foe. Mine just says they.
yeah, but the antecedent is the wicked. Now, see now that what translation is that?
Good question. I keep forgetting. Uh, New King James.
Okay, New King James. So New King James recognizes that the antecedent is the verse before, the wicked, and it inserts it. Is it italicized, by the way? No. Okay, so you don't know if that's in the original or not. But most of the time, like NASB and other NIV, they'll italicize the word, which means it's not there, but it's supplied for meaning. And the text, the text gives you a noun.
Yeah. I'm starting to not like this version
Mm. Really?
Well,
for,
because
for a bunch of other reasons.
I-
yeah,
I-
and
I
it's,
recognize.
it's all new.
Look, that's how you learn. You utilize something, and then all of a sudden you say, I like this, but I don't like that, and in the end you have to weigh
In the end, you wind up with a stack of Bibles.
a stack of Bibles. I got them. I got them. So he hooks them. Very ancient form of fishing. The cherem is the net. This was used actually for hunting and fish.
That's a fly rod.
There
They
you
still
go.
use hooks.
Yeah, still use it.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh.
This was a net that you could use for animals or fish. You know, you just throw it over the.
Cast
Well,
net.
yeah, and so
Mine
Uh,
says a scene,
what?
Seine.
Hmm.
He gathers them in his scene.
It's a net.
That's in that.
Yeah, I didn't know
It's
that.
a set. Yeah, it's just
A
the
throw
way-
net.
Just yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
The point here is that hunters and fishers, there's no difference. Okay, there's just no difference. We try to divide these words up and make a doctrine. A
Yeah.
fisherman does exactly what a hunter does.
Mhm.
Okay, so if God uses a fisherman in one sense to gather the harvest, you can do the same with a hunter, gathering the harvest.
Oh,
You know,
Well,
with a net.
I could make the argument. It's a little specious, but the hunter kills and there's blood.
Hmm.
Fisherman, there's generally no blood. Pull the fish out of the water, put it in a basket over there, and the fish suffocate because they can't.
That's
breathe
better.
out of the water. Yeah, well, yeah.
Oh, no,
The
no.
point
But
is,
they're not.
both have to die.
Yes,
Yeah.
but the fisherman doesn't have to physically kill his catch.
Yeah.
That happens by virtue of the fact that he's out of the water. The hunter has to kill.
So the
before-
hunter normally has an implement that is used to kill.
Yeah,
Okay, I got it.
an implement of destruction from.
Okay.
Or trap, right?
Yeah.
Or trap.
Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
rejoices, he is
With circles
glad.
and arrows in the paragraph on the back of each one.
Samach and Gil, they are used many, many, many times in Scripture to rejoice and to be, in a sense, be giddy. Gilah,
Mm.
to be giddy. Sometimes it's used for praise, the way you praise for dance, for a happy occasion, for a festival, right? But here, the evil one has done his dirty business, and he is rejoicing, and he is glad, as if this is a good thing. He's succeeded. Look, what I've succeeded. I remember seeing a movie, and it was a gangster movie, and the guy was asked a couple of questions. He said, "What do you like?" And the last answer that he gives, I just love to crush my enemies, just to crush them. He gets joy,
Mm.
happiness, and joy out of crushing his enemy. And so the evil one, that's the way they get their jollies, right? And
Yeah.
we can't understand it because we're not like that. But I can tell you, we've dealt with many a folk
Okay,
who
once
are in this
again,
category.
you're talking about the last part of 15.
Yes.
So here, this again, it just says, therefore they rejoice and are glad. Now that could be the hunters and or fishermen are
Both.
celebrating their catch.
Yeah.
But not, but you're referring this back to the wicked, the evil.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
evil ones, they do their dirt, they catch their prey, and the intention is to what? That the prey dies, right? And they live.
But the whole village eats.
Well, okay, but this is in a negative sense, okay? This would be in a negative sense.
Yeah.
Group
okay.
of soldiers come into a town, and because
No
one of
lie.
their guys got lost, they annihilate the town. That's not.
Yeah.
That's not equitable, but they rejoice over that, because they feel like they've avenged, There's all kinds of applications here. Therefore, he sacrifices to his net and burns incense to his dragnet, for by his net he lives in luxury and enjoys the choicest food. You see how true worship is bastardized, right? By
Yeah.
this. And the word sacrifice, zabach, that's normally the slaughter of a living creature, right?
Oh,
In the
wow.
context of worship, in the context of service to God, right? But he worships something else. He worships something false. He worships in an idolatrous way. He offers incense, not literally, but in an idolatrous way, to murder, to being a conqueror, to having succeeded over his prey, to having gained, you know, I mean, when somebody, but
So they're celebrating the kill rather than the killed.
yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they've been successful in their
Mm.
dirty deed, and they prospered by it, right?
Yeah.
So they're living in this false religious, and that's what God calls it. That's what Habakkuk calls it. It's an idolatrous
Mm. Yeah.
life, as if you're sacrificing. Well, Paul says you're sacrificing the demons.
Yeah.
Right? So the hook is, skills of restraint, deception. You put something on the hook to deceive the fish into thinking it's going to get a nice meal.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, Babylonian texts are filled with this kind of language, right?
Hmm.
And they, empires, nations borrow words, they borrow phrases from each other. It shows you how the mix was phenomenal, right? In ancient cultures.
Yeah.
The Jewish people adopt a practice, they Judaize it, I mean that in the best sense. And all of a sudden it
Yeah.
becomes a tradition amongst our people, and it has a different meaning than what it had originally in a pagan culture. As somebody once said,
What-
there's virtually nothing that Judaism has that it didn't borrow.
Oh,
I know.
wow.
Okay. Now I know I read someplace or had it that even the 5 books of Moses were were cloned from Babylonian texts.
That's
You-
been
you know-
examined. Yeah, no, I know it from the Enuma Elish. It's a story.
Is that the creation story?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but the differences are so vast that I think Enuma Elish is borrowed from the creation story, and in a paganized manner.
Oh, yeah.
So that in Enuma Elish, what you've got, instead of God creating the heavens and the earth and the rivers and so forth, you've got the chief goddess who's conquered by Marduk, and out of her
wow.
pelvis comes the firmament. Out of her arms, the Tigris and Euphrates. So
Yeah.
it's paganized in a way that we would say that has to be.
I
That's
rather
it.
believe
Yeah.
God's
So yeah, I'm
But,
pretty
but,
familiar
but,
with
but, but, but the bottom line in all of that is every culture on the planet, every ancient culture has a creation story
Yeah.
that's somewhat similar.
that. Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
absolutely. So I would say that all of them probably started with common source. And then as you move away from the garden, move away from enlightenment, those things become
Yeah.
distorted, and it sounds like, but it's not, it's just not there.
Oh, okay. All
You
right.
know, I mean, this when if I teach something to a student and they've really got it, and then they decide, well, I'm taking off, I'm going to start my own thing, and I say, well, you need to stick around for a little longer. How about 5 years, and then we can kind of send you out. No, I'm
Yeah.
ready, and then all of a sudden you hear them teach. And they're supposed to be teaching what you taught them. It doesn't sound one thing. It's
they're
got
doing
similar
everything.
words, but it's
Yeah.
nothing
It
like
sounds
what
like
you
Joel
said.
Osteen instead.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Joel, are you listening to this?
I
Okay.
hope not. He's totally new age.
All right. So here's another thing. In verse 16, you see. How do you translate it? How does yours?
Verse 16.
Yeah, is it them or his net?
Therefore they sacrifice to their net
Oh man, mine says
and
he.
burn incense to their dragnet.
Huh.
Okay. So these are all
by them their share is sumptuous. Yeah.
okay. So in the Hebrew, it's only them. It's only a third person plural pronoun. Okay.
Huh.
But in many
I would love to say,
translations,
could you speak that in English? But I
Mine is singular.
they did it. It's his.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it is
but it's
the
just
net.
his. So his what? Well, it's got to be the net.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the
That's what it
antecedent.
said.
But
Mhm.
this is what makes translations. So one will say his net, another will say their nets, Another one will say his.
Okay.
Okay?
Oh,
Yeah.
So it
wow.
depends on how wooden or not wooden.
Mhm.
I prefer a dynamic translation. It gives a sense, you know. I mean, it has to make
There's
sense.
really more than one fisherman out there,
Yeah,
so it's
Mhm.
there.
yeah.
So it doesn't
But it'd be
matter
their
the
nets.
singular or the
Their
plural.
nets.
Oh, yeah.
That
Right.
would be the sense, even though it's singular, the sense would be plural.
Mhm.
Okay?
Oh, that
Like
makes
the
sense,
wicked
yeah.
would be singular, but it represents all of the
The
wicked.
whole group,
Mhm.
yeah.
You know? So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if I say the wicked, that's multiple people, that's not singular. That's
But if I
plural.
say the
Yeah.
wicked one,
One, yeah, that's different. That's pointing out a specific individual.
unless it's pejorative. If it's pejorative, then it's pregnant to include all of the wicked ones.
Hmm.
Okay? And many times the verse before it will give you what we call the antecedent, the noun that
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
is attached to the verb or the adjective or whatever it might be.
I
And
hate
that's,
grammar.
oh, I listen, it gets worse. I mean, you have
Let me shove
verbal
out my
clauses, adverbial clauses, you have all kinds of,
Oh,
a whole clause can serve to be an adjective or a, or a
Yeah.
pronoun or to describe one thing. So you have to look for
Mm.
that. Anyway, that's what I'm saying. It's not illegitimate what they're doing here. It's just, it's irritating when you see different translations. Why can't they get it straight? Well, they're getting it straight. They're coming at it from a different
Oh,
point of
wow.
view. One,
Yeah.
NIV is always going to give you the dynamic equivalent, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
that's
it
what
might
I
insert
felt like.
something, might take something away. KJV tends to be a little more literal,
Yep.
So it's new KJV corrects a lot of the old.
Why
Oh,
why did
yeah.
you say the MacArthur Bible is a good one? Is
Well-
that a better translation? Or?
Well, he's a great scholar,
Yeah.
but I prefer a Bible that's put together by many scholars.
Yeah.
I like people
I would too.
collaborating.
Mhm.
Like the NIV had 100 scholars
Mhm.
collaborating. Well, I like that better.
Yeah.
You have
That just means three each took a different chapter, not they
no,
each
but
went over every word.
it's all peer reviewed. It's all peer
Yeah.
reviewed,
Yeah.
and nobody gets away with, well, this is just the way I'm going to say it. Well, no, it isn't. The editor
Mhm.
That
has
would have
three
been a
other
good point.
opinions.
Yeah.
17. Will they empty their net and continuously slay nations without mercy? Are you going to let this happen? Right? Are you going to? Of course, the slaughter of the nations is interpreted by the word harbo, and harbo means his sword. So instead of saying his sword, another translation says to slay.
Mm.
Okay, it's what makes more sense.
Yeah.
Just don't be upset by it. It's nothing to be upset by.
Mhm.
All right.
That's a
So
good point.
yeah.
Yeah.
So 17. Now some. Yeah, I'm not going to get into that. All right. So 17 reverts to the question in 13. Can justice, now defined more vividly by the intervening verses, be tolerated indefinitely by the God of justice? I've just given you all that these wicked people are doing. They're laughing. They're playing. They're getting away with it. The righteous are suffering. Okay. Are they now, when I've described all this, like God doesn't know?
Mm.
Okay. I don't know about your prayer request, but I have to catch myself. Lord, you know that I went through, and then I list every problem I had today. Every single, what was it? I had a particular thing happen. Oh, so I'm driving here. Or no, I'm getting something for Beth Messiah. So I'm driving to Walmart, and I see that there's a lot of cars lined up, and this poor trucker's trying to get out. So I'm going to let him out.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm going to be a good guy. I'm going to let him
Yeah.
out. I'm going to smile and wave, and he's going to be just happy, and it's just right thing to do. Well, the guy before me did it, and I started getting mad. I could not believe my attitude.
Oh,
And I caught the Lord kind of said, "What are you doing? Where did that come from?" I wanted to be the good guy, the hero.
Yeah, that's
Right?
it,
So the
yeah.
motive was not exactly too pure. It just
You were
happened today.
looking forward to it.
I was looking
Yeah.
forward to being the hero,
Yeah.
to being the believer,
Yeah.
to showing forth Yeshua, and somebody
Yeah.
got there before me.
Oh man. Yeah.
Okay, so
Probably someone in your congregation.
It's
is
probably
doing it.
Derek.
I'm just saying that this
Yeah.
you
Wow.
start listing all the things that God's got to do. Lord, I've got this issue, and it's coming close. It's the day
Yeah.
after tomorrow. You better start doing something.
I know.
You
I'm
better
like,
start moving.
I know. I'm
It's
like,
coming. It's coming here. So it'll be here in
Yeah.
no time at all. You better do something right now.
you know what I've said? This is terrible. Lord, I need a breakthrough down here.
You need to believe, right? We need
I
to
know
believe.
that's right.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, I have 2 steel power tools. I've got a chainsaw and a weed whacker. And both of them, a month ago, they were both running. And next thing you know, I couldn't get them started. So I figured, well, let me try this on my own. So I bought, for the chainsaw, because it was easier to get apart, I replaced the spark plug, I replaced the fuel filter, and I replaced the air filter, and I still couldn't get it started. Now, my neighbor retired from steel. He told me that instead of taking it to Land and Coats, where I bought it, and everything's very expensive, he said, take it to the True Value store down on the boat on Laskin Road, because they've got a retired steel mechanic in there doing repairs. And okay, so I take it in there, drop it off. 2 weeks ago, this morning, I get a phone call. Actually, I got 2 phone calls, both voicemails. They can't repair my tools because I didn't buy them there.
Oh.
I said, and they're going to take them and send them to the steel factory.
Oh no.
What is going on here? This doesn't make any sense at all. So this afternoon, I went down to the hardware store and tried to figure out, if it's going to steel, what difference does it make who I give the money to? If I give it to you, you guys are making money. If you're giving it back to me, you're returning my deposit on the repair. It's just, well, it really boiled down to is they have their own repair shop, which I was told that they had it, and then I was told that they didn't have it. But it turns out that they do have it, and their backlog is so high they don't want to take in tools
Oh, wow.
from someone who's not their customer, put their own customers further back. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'll buy it. So I take it. So I pick them up and I go over to Land and Coats and to the service desk, and I tell them, this was working a month or so ago and I can't get it started. I said, this one, the chainsaw, I replaced the spark plug, I replaced the fuel filter, I replaced the air filter, and I still can't get it started. And those little carburetor adjustment holes, I don't like messing with because I just mess it all up. He says, he did the paperwork on the weed whacker, and it says, come with me. Walked outside, went click, click, vroom. He says, when you push that little lever down to full choke, how many times do you pull on it? I said, until it starts to sputter. He said, that's your mistake. Just pull on it twice, then go up to half choke, jerk on it, it should start by the second pull, and then you squeeze the handle, it goes on to full speed. He says, what you were doing was flooding it, and it's not going to start when it's.
So now, what was your point with regard to the?
I didn't have to pay for a repair on the chainsaw, so I was.
And in the text here, what are we using that as an example for?
I have
Trying
no
to do
idea
something.
anymore.
I think it was that you were trying to
I
do
think it was
stuff
more
on your
along with you
own.
trying to be the nice guy.
Trying
And
to
God,
Oh,
and God was
yeah.
smiling on me today, and I didn't have to pay for another overhaul.
Yeah, I see.
I don't know.
I see. Well, I'm just saying
That was
it's
a nice ride.
Yeah, really.
now
thought
I
it was you were
could have
trying to do
I could
everything on
have
your own instead of.
I could have been bitter, and I could have wallowed in that. Lord, you know my heart, and you
could've-
know that I really want to do good. I want to show you, and
That
you know, it
sounds
just
like
wasn't
me.
fair. That I could go crazy like that. You know, long list of
Yeah.
why God should not have allowed that guy. You know what I'm saying? And to
Uh-huh.
some third party, it's like,
Gosh.
Rabbi, what are you talking about? You're talking like a crazy person, you know. So, but that's the danger in starting to list all kind of like in a courtroom with God. Look, these are all the reasons why you have to do this,
Oh, man.
you know, and you're missing the
Mhm.
big picture. Now, God's going to
Yeah.
answer all this, right? So it's not like, and he's not stupid. It's just this is how he's interacting with God.
Mhm.
Yeah.
He's still an embracer of God. It doesn't diminish his righteousness or his status with God, or his, let's say, his sonship, if you will.
Mhm.
But he's on the wrong track here. Yeah,
But he's
But
asking
is it,
questions.
he's asking questions. So,
it seems like it's so contrary to our nature.
Yeah.
Which it is. There's a reason why, because we're not of this world, right? But it's so contrary. It doesn't seem, it's like, where's the hero? Where's the hero?
where's the hero? Yeah,
Where's the people
Yeah.
stepping in?
you need a
I
white
mean, it
horse.
just- yeah.
That's why we like John Wick movies, or you know, Equalizer. Or,
Yeah.
Mm.
all right,
The
so
Duke.
the Duke. Yeah, you can't beat the Duke. All right, so basically we have this this holding back. You know, why are you holding back? So that brings us to chapter 2, and I will stand at my watch and station myself upon the ramparts. I will look to see what he will say to me, and what answer I am to give this complaint. So this idea, mismeret, to watch, is usually used of some kind of official person that's who has a duty to watch, a
A
watchman.
watchman, yeah.
Yeah. So he's in the place of the watchman, and he's fulfilling his responsibility, and he's looking. He's watching. He's looking. He's on the ramparts. You know,
Mhm.
trying to protect the righteous, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
We don't. You know, Mizpah is usually it's pretty close to Jerusalem. That might have been his home. We don't really know where his home was. But Mizpah had this wall that was huge. You know, was 600 yards long. Yigdal Yadin from Hebrew University in Cincinnati actually is the one that he used the bull for archaeology. He's a remarkable,
Wow.
just a remarkable
Oh,
guy. And
What's his name?
Yigdal Yadin. And so anyway, this was discovered, and in other words, it would be a place that was high, that could see all over. You know, so this could have been actually the rampart that he was
Yeah. Well-
watching. 12 yards high is a pretty high wall.
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So-
Really.
But
36 feet.
every city back then was a walled city.
But not
But
like
that's
that.
monstrous.
That's
yeah.
36.
Yeah.
36 feet
Yeah.
high. It's a whopper. You know.
Mhm.
All right. So and it also had two towers. You know, that's higher than the wall.
Right.
And so anyway, it's likely it was that. You're right. So he saw himself as a person on duty. He's looking. He's watching. We see this throughout the scripture. The watchman on the wall. It's not. It's a very common
Yeah. It's
phrase, common words here. So
it's a military duty.
yeah,
Mm.
and his spiritual duty he felt.
Yeah.
So this is what is he going to answer to my complaint? And that's what he says. It's an argument. This word here, tokahat, means an argument that one seeks to establish what is correct. Okay, so that's what he's done here. In a legal sense, he has outlined his argument to God. I'm offering this argument. This is why you must move, right? You must restore. You've got to take care of this, right? So Habakkuk needs to know how are you going to respond to my complaint. Now, verse 2 begins God's indictment. Okay,
Hmm.
his response.
Well, before you get
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
Again, mine is, different wording.
Mhm.
It can be very clear, but not against what you just said.
Mhm.
It says, I will stand my watch and set myself upon on the rampart. Well, he could be doing double duty. He's actually doing physical guard duty for the city, and he's also waiting for a response from God. Same
Possible.
time,
Possible.
because he's got nothing else to do but stare at the horizon and hang on to that trumpet in case he needs
Yeah.
it. Then it says, and watch to see what he will say to me, which is his waiting, and and what I will answer when I am corrected. And then that's just a convoluted.
Well, I mean, part of him says maybe I've got this wrong. Maybe I'm not seeing something, which is pretty good. But he's taken all the trouble to outline his argument. But then
Yeah.
he says, well, okay, if I can be corrected, if I can see it a different way, I'm open to it. Now
that's good.
that's a spiritual way of
Yeah.
looking at things.
Mm.
Okay, not the
Mhm.
long list of problems, but
Mhm.
the idea that, Lord, what's my part in this? And Carol is very good in this when there's an interpersonal conflict that she has with somebody. It doesn't matter if it's their fault.
Mhm.
Her first question when she goes to the Lord to think about it is, God, is there anything that's my fault? Is there anything that's my part? I want to repent of anything that's my part in this.
Mhm.
I think it's a good reflection
Mhm.
on an individual when you can
Yeah.
say, look, if I contributed anything to this, instead of saying
Mhm.
but you, well, this is the reason I
Right.
said it, just I'm sorry. I
Mhm.
see now that my part in this was this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I I always get good parking places. It doesn't matter where I go. The Lord opens up beautiful parking places. I don't know. It's like a little blessing. I'm very
Wow.
happy about it. I always praise the Lord for it. But, Carol thinks sometimes it's coincidence, and I just don't. I think God is
Mm.
there with me. So I came into the parking place, and all of a sudden, she wasn't a Karen, but the lady came out
Okay.
and she said, "Sir, I have been waiting for this parking place now for 5 minutes." I said,
Great.
"I'm so sorry. I didn't see you. You know what? I'm going to get out and I'm going to let you in." And she was like floored
Oh,
because she
wow.
thought she's in big to do.
Man.
But
Mhm.
my part was what? Ignorance. I didn't see her
Mhm.
genuinely. And who wants to have somebody feel bad? I moved out. I went a little bit further. She came in and, it made her day. Okay, good enough. What's my part in it? Is it my fault that I got there first? No. But what was my part? Well, I didn't see her. So it's not going to cost me an arm and a leg. I'm not at the in the emergency room. I'm not bleeding from my eyes. Just a parking thing. What's my part in it?
Mhm.
So he's open to that. Let's put it this way. He takes the question to God. That's another thing. Even if you're mad at God, Lord, I'm mad at you, but I'm bringing this before you. I don't understand this.
Mhm.
And waiting
Yeah.
for the answer, that's a very good lesson.
Mhm.
So, verse 2 Then the Lord replied, right? He answered, write down this revelation or the revelation and make it plain on tablets so that a herald may run with it. Okay. By the way, God's reply is in verses 2 to 20. It's a long reply.
okay.
Okay. So that
Okay.
constitutes a section. So we're going to see similar sentence structures and similar ploys throughout this portion. And that's something to look for. What verses are linked together? And is there a theme change or a person change, like from second person to third person? Or, the text will tell you pretty quickly. So the noun chazon, we've mentioned it before because this is the chazon of Habakkuk, right? And chazon is supernatural in nature. It's always.
Mm.
We translated vision, right?
Mhm.
Isaiah, this is the chazon of Isaiah, right? The son of Amos, right? On and on and on. So we essentially attribute these to prophets, but anyone can have a vision. You know, we were talking to a gal and her husband, and they were thinking about children, and she was very afraid because she was older, and very afraid about children, and Carol had a vision of twins,
Oh, wow.
and so she said, "Do twins run in your family?" And the girl about choked.
Oh,
Her eyes opened.
man.
Yes, twins run in her family. So I think they're going to have twins. But she had a vision, something
Wow.
that you don't have in a dream. It's not a dream.
Mhm.
It's something you see in plain,
Mhm.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
it's
As
not,
opposed to just a thought.
yeah, or a
Yeah.
cloud or something like that.
Yeah.
This was
Yeah.
something tangible, right? So this is a chazon. He receives it, and the present tense, the present verse, is what he received, right? What he saw. This was going to be the outcome of his watchfulness, right? So the revelation was to be written down, obviously to be preserved for when? A future time. Okay. Things were written down on tablets, things were written, usually clay tablets. That was a very common way of keeping records. Sometimes it was papyrus, but the tablets served as a more permanent, which might be why the book is so short. Right? There's only 3 chapters. You know,
Oh,
that's a lot of
yeah.
tablets.
Right.
But at
Right,
least it
probably.
wasn't written in cuneiform.
Huh?
At least it wasn't written in cuneiform.
Probably Babylonian script.
Yeah.
All right, so it's written down. We see it to make plain, to beer in Hebrew, to make plain. The form of the words will be easily discerned. It'll be clear what I'm saying.
In other words,
And-
print neatly.
Neatly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I couldn't do it. He wouldn't want me to write it down. And what's the purpose? A herald, right? The Koreh is the one who reads. A herald is going to take this in hand, and that reading usually is done for a crowd, and so he wants this to be read to the crowd, and he will run with this, meaning he will take it to the crowd. He will hurriedly take the meaning, take the tablets to the crowd. And so verse 3, for the revelation awaits an appointed time. This word moed is used of the festivals.
Oh,
You
yeah.
think of the festivals as
Yeah.
Hag, a festival, but a moed, the festivals, the 3 main festivals of the Israelites are appointed times. What are they appointed times for? They're appointed times to meet with God. And so we have this. The vision is yet for a time where I will meet the people. Okay? It's an appointed time, a moed, right? It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay. Now, this end, this Kates, is not in Daniel, Kates is an eschatological end of days. But here, it's the end of the time where the prophecy will come to pass.
Okay, so, but not
Oh.
necessarily. end
Not the last
times.
days.
Not
Oh,
end times.
okay.
No, this is not the last day. This is an appointed time that they will realize in their lifetime. Okay, so they're going to see this. It awaits a future
Okay.
fulfillment at the end of the waiting time, but you're going to see it in your lifetime. Yeah, it'll manifest in your lifetime. So it's a definite time.
And it'll be a revelation.
It'll be. It's like when what Moses said. You know, you're going to believe when you're on Mount Sinai. You're going to finally believe me. You're going to believe that the prophecies are true. When you get there, you'll have trouble all along the way. You know, when I came to Beth Messiah, I was very picky and I wasn't very good socially with the ladies. You know, I just couldn't. I'd never have a relationship. So, needless to say, year after year went by and I was still unmarried. So the congregation had a shirt made in training for the 144,000. Perpetual virgin. But the day came, and I always knew I'd be married. I always had a real assurance of that. I knew I didn't see how it was going to come to pass, but I knew it was a limited amount of time. And then, of course, that happened. Once it happened, then I knew for sure that prophecy was really from the Lord, and it wasn't just made up in my mind. I believed it to the degree I could. There was no evidence, but I believed it to the degree I could. But when it came to pass, it was like, Lord, you really were faithful. He gave me a verse, none shall lack their mate, and on
Did
and
you
on.
give a shirt back to the congregation?
Yeah, the shirts. Listen, I couldn't fit in that shirt. My life depended. It could fit on my arm.
Hot water shrinks everything.
Yeah.
I should take more hot baths.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So he's going to run. The prophecy, the herald's going to run, but the prophecy is going to run. It's the revelation is certain. There is an appointed time. It will certainly come, and you can run with confidence, right? With all of this, the logical outcome is that one should wait. It will, in fact, happen. So I'm going to give you a glimpse of the future, and it's going to happen. I want you to wait for it. I want the people to wait for it, and you don't see the entire pattern, but I'm going to give you enough of the glimpse that you can hang on to that, right? And that's the frustration with prophecy, isn't it? You only get a part of the thing, But I think of what Robin had given me. Well, I guess you too, but some plants. And Robin loves gardening, and she loves to think about how the plants are in the ground, and they start out from seeds, and anyway, we had a wonderful conversation. But you don't see when you see the seed, there is no way. If you didn't know what that plant looked like, there's no way in the world that you could draw that thing. But from previous experience of others and your own experience that if you put enough seeds in the ground, some of them will grow into plants. Now, all winter, I had my bulbs, and I really wanted them to come up this year, and I had, hyacinths, and I had all kinds of bulbs in the ground because I'm switching from annuals to perennials now over the last year. So I want everything to be a perennial, and then I'll have perpetual blooms, throughout the year, and nothing all winter, nothing. Of course, okay. It doesn't mean they weren't doing anything. Okay, they were still sapping up the energy. Those bulbs still grab the energy and the nutrients and whatnot. You don't see anything, nothing, and then all of a sudden, boom! That little piece comes up, and then before you know it, you got this thing that's
full of stalk with.
So I planted this year. Planted the first year in this house sunflower seeds from seeds, and they already got them coming up. And I know they're going to be whoppers. So you got to plant those things, like that into the ground. But it's going to happen. I planted enough seeds that I know for sure I'm going to wait for the time right here. But then the end will come. And I will see it in my lifetime based on what I know about seeds. So based on what Habakkuk knows about God and his word, God is saying you're going to see it. And tell people they're going to see it as well.
Be careful of those, because if you play like Robin plays, she lets everything go to seed for the birds, and the next thing you know, my lawn is covered with flowers.
No. No, I gather the season.
I wanted to do that. She wouldn't let me. She's also violently allergic to sunflowers. Sunflower seeds.
Oh my lands.
Oh gosh. Just touching one to the tip of her tongue one day almost put her in the hospital.
Ooh.
I don't think I'd have sunflowers in my area.
Yeah, I don't.
She loves sunflowers. I said, cut them down, dig them out, get rid of them.
So let's go to another verse.
Okay.
Verse 4. See, the enemy is puffed up. His desires are not upright, but the righteous person will live by faith. Right? By emunah, faith and faithfulness. People make a big deal about the word means both.
Hmm.
To believe something which is attached to trusting it,
Mm.
and to being faithful to what we trust in. Okay? It's both.
Mm,
It's
okay.
not one or the other. So when Yeshua says, when the Son of Man comes to the earth, will he find faith in the earth? Means, will he still find faithful people? And the answer is yes.
Mm.
Of course he will,
Mm.
right? A lot of people are in gloom and doom, and they don't have that faith, but they don't have that expectation. But he says, yes, of course. The answer is yes. So the enemy is puffed up, right? He is to be puffed up is to be neglectful, to be wicked, to it's to faint. What does faint mean? To faint against that which is right, to draw away
Okay.
from it. To puff yourself up is to draw away from God, right?
Yeah.
That's why James said, any ambition is going to lead to confusion in every evil work. All right, right. It's gonna. You cannot see clearly when you've got selfish ambition,
Oh, yeah.
right? You just
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
So they're puffed up. They're swelled up with themselves.
This says, "Behold the proud."
Yes,
Yeah.
Mhm.
behold. That's a good translation.
Mm.
It came
Ah,
through
there
for you, Larry.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one who's puffed up, right? Okay. And so the upright, the yashar, we say yashar koach, when somebody
Oh, yeah.
reads after they participate in the Torah service. It means what? It means just like that, just like going right. In other words, walk just right. Okay. May you walk
okay.
rightly,
I didn't know.
right?
Mm.
Not crookedly, but rightly,
Mm.
right?
I like
To be
that.
put aright, to be put straight. The righteous, the tzaddik, the one who is righteous, is committed to being upright, walking straight. And again, emunah is the same as pistis in Greek, and both words they can apply fairness, stability, permanence, any number of things surrounding that which you trust. Okay, are we good?
You're close.
3 minutes. All right. All right. So trust is part of that. Faithfulness. God is faithful. God is a rock. Well, which is he? It means the same thing. God is my fortress. He's the one that's faithful to keep me. They're different words for the same thing. People worry about the Beatitudes and they try to dissect it. Every Beatitude is the same as the next one.
Hmm.
Mm.
Those who mourn, they're the same as the poor, right? It's said in different ways. Those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, they're the same. They're the ones being persecuted by the unrighteous. Like
That
big,
is the first time I've heard it
yeah.
that way.
Me
yeah, it's
too.
they're all
I've
the
never heard
same.
that.
You don't have to
Wow.
dissect them. They're said in different ways.
Mhm.
Oh,
The
yeah,
poor is
that
not
makes
somebody who has no
sense.
money. The
Mhm.
poor in intertestamental literature was always the one who suffered, the righteous
Mm.
who suffer at the
Oh,
hands of the
wow.
unrighteous, mainly the
Didn't know
unrighteous
that.
priests of Jerusalem. Right? A lot of
Mm.
literature is devoted to
Wow.
that in the intertestamental period.
Mm.
So they're all the same. So a lot of these words are cognates. In other words, they mean the same thing, and it's not meant to it's not meant to differentiate some kind of
Wow.
now sometimes there is a differentiation, but the rest of the sentence will give you a sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but when there is no
Wow.
sense, then like Hunter and Fisher, they essentially mean the same thing. Reliability is in the context. The righteous are reliable, right?
Yeah.
The righteous are faithful. God is faithful.
Mhm.
The righteous are a rock. God a rock. Okay,
Mhm.
He's the rock of salvation, but we too are the rock because we're built on the rock. So it's like we're the rock, immovable. We're not going to, our house isn't going to fall.
Mhm.
So we're the rock too. We don't think of that.
Mhm.
We think of building on solid ground, but if your house is built on solid ground, your house is solid ground too. The wind's not going to blow it
Yeah.
down, just like it's not going to blow the rock down,
Mhm.
right? Paul says, "Don't be swayed about by every wind and doctrine." All right. You're not the rock. So that means you're not grounded in the rock.
Wow.
Okay. If you're grounded in the rock, you'll be a rock. Okay. If you are grounded in the He who is faithful, emunah, then you will be faithful. Really. All right. But there are those who are not. Okay. So that there's the faithful ones. What is this? Okay. So we're going to stop here. I think it's 8. Okay. And we will pick this up. If you have questions, write our email. I think it's bmstidewater@hotmail.com. And we'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. All right. God bless you. I hope to see you Saturday. 9:30 is our Torah study. 10:30 is our service. Then we have lunch, what we call the oneg, which means the light, together. And then we have courses for the teens, dance practice, Israeli dance practice. And I think Rabbi Derek is still holding his Hebrew class.
A couple
So-
more classes. Yeah.
A couple more classes. All right. We'll see you then. Shalom for now. I hope this has been relevant to you. God bless you.